Hey, welcome back to the garage, everyone. All right, stay tuned for some impromptu cell phone footage of stuff that you do while you're waiting on your Corvette engine to come back from the machine shop. And believe it or not, I finally decided to turn my upstairs area in the shop into a bona fide office. So the garage builder put this wall in here, but this was open and you could see the lift bay in there. And I thought to myself, well, that's kind of cool, but also quite useless. So I just stuck some studs in there with some angle brackets and got myself some insulation, and then boom, we have a wall. So I'm going to get some particle board or chipboard or something. I'll lay in over that, and give me a great place to hang a nice big old TV. And I'll get my work junk all. This is where we keep the extra toilet paper. That's from COVID. Don't want to ever run out again. A while back, I also insulated the roof. The shingles are just on the other side of that. I did put some of those spacers in between the insulation and the bottom side of the roof to avoid moisture. And that's been done a couple of years now. So I just got through putting in this little section right over here. And had the remnants left over from all my cutting and just kind of shoved them into the corner and taped them up. So that's good enough. And put some over here on the end of the building and got to right there. Decided to stop for now. And what I need to do is come in here and insulate the back side of this wall as well. And then we'll wall that up with some chipboard or plywood or something. Make a proper wall out of it. And my thinking here is to have this air conditioned, but not have a door here. I'm thinking maybe I would have like some of those plastic things that hang down. You see them in a refrigeration unit in a grocery store. You open the door and you walk through the plastic strips. Kind of like that, just hanging down from this area to hold the cold air in. That's kind of what I got going on in my brain. Don't know if it'll work or not, but we're going to find out. And I'm kind of thinking maybe a mini split or some kind of a DIY air conditioner, and might come in through that wall right there and blow here into the office. So I'm thinking all this stuff here is going to go on a bookshelf that I will have to manufacture myself. And I'll go over here on this wall, and this desk will go back here and get myself a chair. And then I think over here, maybe a futon that kind of folds out in case a guest wants to come in. They got a place to sleep up here if they want. TV, and then maybe another chair over here. And I think that will be it. Probably put some carpet down, because you can see downstairs into the shop. So I may go for those industrial squares. Whatever's the cheapest, I think it'll be in order. All right, more on the office later. As of late, one of the more important things that I've been trying to work my way through is some starting problems on the old motorhome here. That muffler hanger is a little rusty. We're going to have to do something about that. Let me turn on some light over here. Well, never mind. I turned that out. So anyway, we'll do with what we got here. So you'll see here the starter on the side of the old 5.9 Cummins. Yeah, there's a rear main seal leak. And I'm going to treat this like I do my Mercedes and not worry about it, because guess what? Transmission has to come out to repair the rear main seal on a 5.9 Cummins. So oh well, what is it with diesels anyway? All right, I digress. All right, so starting problems. As you know, a couple of years ago, I went through an extensive troubleshooting session on this RV to resolve a starting problem. We got that problem fixed, and it was related to this little guy right here. It's a power distribution point that sends power up to the transmission control module. This has not been an issue. We basically just cleaned up the connections on this, and everything worked fine. Now, in the last few months, I've started to encounter an additional starting problem, but it's not related to the transmission controller. It's basically just, you turn the key and nothing happens. Although the transmission control pad does light up, as it should, so that's not a problem. And ultimately it led me to the conclusion that, well, you know what? It's probably just the starter, dummy. Okay, it's just, it's probably just time. So, when you turn the key and boom, nothing happens, and you do it a few times, and then you might get lucky and it might crank. And I thought to myself, yes, let's just try to change the starter. So that's what I did. I got a new Delco Remy 28MT from the local Napa and slapped it in there. I turned the key and nothing happened. So that told me that, okay, well, it's clearly not the starter. On a side note about this starter, when I turned the key a few times, and when I did get it to turn over, the starter did not engage the flywheel. And I got to looking at it, and I think the starter that I bought is slightly cocked off to one side or something, and it simply doesn't engage the teeth. So what I'm probably going to do here is go back with my original starter, but that's a side note. Now, during all of this, I decided, I said, well, you know what? The starter relay, which I talked about in my previous video, is in fact an inexpensive item. You can find it on eBay, and that's where I got this one. Made in Mexico part, seems to be all right. And $20, I think it was. So I went ahead and changed that out. I haven't actually had a chance to try this yet. I did put new connectors on these smaller wires because they were a little bit questionable. However, I'm in the middle of this thing, and I've come to a conclusion that I've been hunting down the wrong path. I've been going down the wrong road here. And you'll note right here, there's a big honking ground cable. By the way, this is 3/0. You can see you can see my deformed thumb, by the way. How about that? Isn't that great? That's what you get. That's called a preacher's cyst. That's what you get when you smack your thumb with a hammer and it causes a cyst. I'm going to get that taken care of here later on in the year, so you guys won't have to look at it anymore. But anyway, this is 3/0 cable. Now this cable, which I cut here, goes up to the ground on the chassis batteries, and did in fact go to another section of cable which I have lopped off, and we'll take you into the shop next to show you what I found. All right, before we dive off into what I believe to be the culprit of this whole affair, and of course my workbench is its usual disarray, went ahead and purchased a new starter, as I told you earlier, from Napa. This is a Delco Remy 28MT remanufactured unit. Everything looks normal, but I can't help but think that this angle here and this angle here might be a little bit different. You see what I mean? So I'm going to try to put my camera in the proper orientation. The new one on the right just looks like it's cocked off to one side and will not engage the engine, the flywheel. Because I tested both of these starters. I hooked them up to the very powerful battery in our Cadillac, the Die Hard, and they both work fine. They both have the same number of teeth. They appear to both have the same distance here on this shaft, although I will say the bushing here at the end of the old one appears to be a little different than this one. Not sure if that has any significance at all, but I just think the one on the right is cocked off to a different, so I've got them kind of lined up there. You see what I'm saying? It just looks different. This one is at a different angle, and I don't know. I just think the one on the right is at a different angle, and it's just not engaging. Or I didn't have enough power to properly send this thing zooming all the way out. Although when I did turn the key, you could hear the starter spinning. It spun and spun and spun. I'd never heard it do that before. It might have been a case where I simply didn't have enough power to push this out. It did spin it, but didn't push it out. That's a guess on my part. I don't know that, if you don't present enough power to a starter, is that the case where this might spin but not push out? I don't know. I've never encountered that. But my assumption here regarding the starter is this angle simply isn't right. It's a little different from this one, and that's why it didn't engage. And all of this, I think the original starter is going to go back on the RV. Now, meanwhile, what else did I try to do? Well, while the new relay was coming in, I decided to take the old one apart. And you know what I found? It seems to work perfectly. So this is the starter relay on a Freightliner XC chassis, by the way. Now this is your power distribution, okay? One of these will be the main power, and the other one will be the power distribution. In this case, main power came in on this terminal and was distributed to the starter on this terminal. And you have these two little guys right here, which is your turn on, and one of them is ground. I can't recall which, but anyway, you get some juice in here, and when you get the juice, you push that little plunger in right there, like that, and that connects these two terminals here. Pretty simple relay, really. So there's the bracket. It was just held on with these crimped connections here. And I'm going to put this back together since it does work fine, and I will just keep it as a spare, and I'll just continue to run the brand new one. Because it's inexpensive, I think I'm going to try to return this because that is expensive. So, the starter was wonky. The relay seems to have worked properly. What was wrong with the starting on this thing? Well, I noticed this big honking cable hanging down from the RV. This cable was a piece out of the main chassis ground, and it was just really long and looped around and had tape around it. And I'm like, that looks terrible. Why have I never even seen this before? And I took the tape off, and this is what I found. Yeah, boy, that is just gnarly. Some of these wires are cut a little bit because I was cutting the tape away. So this cable was pretty long. It was kind of coiled around, and over the years it just rubbed on stuff and rubbed holes in the side. And this hole here didn't have anything on it. This one had a bunch of tape on it. And I've worked on this RV a lot, and I just kind of looked at the cables, and they just kind of went in one eyeball and right out the other, and I didn't pay any attention to it. Well, because of all this, I had just finished replacing the relay, the starter relay, and I saw this cable and my eyeballs homed in on this right here. I was like, whoa, what's going on there? Because this cable had fallen down. It was above the frame rail, and it had fallen down. And I said, man, that's bad news right there. So I got my wife to, so I popped the hood on the battery compartment, and I grabbed a hold of the cable underneath here, and I asked my wife to pinpoint the cable where it was in the battery compartment, and sure enough, it goes to the ground on the chassis cranking batteries. I'm like, okay, I think we found our problem. So I cut that out of the main ground cable, and this is the good end. This is the lug that was attached to the frame of the RV, and this is where I cut it with a Dremel tool. And you saw the other end in the RV. So this will give me plenty to reconnect to the frame rail. Clearly, the cable was too long and had too much play in it. So I think we found our starting problem with the RV. It took me a while, but then again, I'm a little bit thick-headed. And what I'm going to do is, since this lug here seems to be fine, this cable seems to be fine, these lugs are about $30 a piece, and even if I had one, I'd have to buy a special tool to, although I do have one of those hammer lug crimpers. You put it around there and you smack it with a hammer. I could probably use that if I bought a new lug. But I'm going to go with a splice, And I'm not going to worry with that. I'm going to go ahead and splice this into the other section on the RV. And it's one of those splice connections. It's about yay big around. And you just put both ends in there and you tighten down a couple of screws and you go on about your business. And while I'm at it, I'll go ahead and readily affix the ground cable to the frame of the RV. And cover it up with some corrugated wiring loom, and I don't think we're going to have a problem again with the ground on the RV. So all in all, I think we found our intermittent starting problem. So, and I've told you guys this before, your grounds have to be perfect. Otherwise, you're going to have so many problems and you're going to bang your head against the wall time and time again. And this is a prime example, and it bit me. Well, what else have we been doing here while we've been waiting on our Corvette short block? Well, I'll tell you. Let me tell you something. If your black tank valve leaks in your motorhome, your life will be negatively impacted. I guarantee it. Even if it's just a pinhole and it's just a drop once in a while, it will make your RV experience completely awful. So I had to break down and I had to go ahead and flush my black tank. And it was actually, my problem was the flange on the other side of the black tank valve. So I had to take all of that mess off, cut the flange off, buy a new flange, get some ABS cement the new flange on there, get a new valve. All these parts here are brand new, and all the geometry changed, right? So I had to put this all together on the RV and then gingerly take it off of there, take it inside the shop, and ABS cement it all together. And the blue tape and the white marks are to keep the orientation of the pipes in order while I cemented everything together. Also installed a new gray tank valve, got a new cap on there. This thing is now solid as a rock. I got about 6 to 10 gallons of water in the black tank right now, and it has not leaked at all, and it's 100% good. So I am really happy about that. Now, if you have one of these late 90s, early 2000s Class A diesel pushers from Coachmen or one of the other mediocre brands, the water system is, you'll probably have to rebuild it, which is what I had to do to this one. This black section here is something I added because I cut out some of the plastic to get in there and redo some of the PEX hoses. And this whole thing is, I've had this thing apart a half a dozen times, and this cover that they put in at the factory is just an idiotic design. It was never meant to be serviced. It was never meant to be removed. I think they were counting on somebody driving this thing for 10 years and scrapping it. But anyway, I'm dumb enough to buy it, and I rebuilt this whole thing. All the PEX hoses, all the valves, all these valves are brand new. And the way I connected these two panels here was, this is sheet steel, and I got 6 self-tappers there, and I got one more right there to hold that in place, and it's very firmly affixed to the RV, so that made a huge improvement. I got a screw there and a screw there as well to hold the thing down. So my water management system and the sewage treatment and all that stuff, I think, is good to go. Another thing that we did all around the RV was put LED lighting in. So every compartment where you see the small lights, I've inserted LED bulbs in there, and that is all around. I can't turn them on right now because of my starting problem, but anyway, so LED lights 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 LED lights, or LED light conversions, I must say, but they're absolutely fantastic. And the bulbs, I got them on Amazon, and they were really inexpensive. Now, in areas where these little fixtures here were deteriorated beyond use, I went ahead and replaced them with these guys here. on Amazon. I think they're about 10, 12 bucks a piece. And let's not forget about the engine compartment. I've got one LED light fixture up here, and there's one way back there in the engine bay itself, and those are activated with this little switch right here if you raise the hood. And of course the battery is not engaged, so none of those are going to be functioning right now. Needs a paint job. I keep forgetting how many LED lights I added. The porch light is now LED. This grab handle, nice clear acrylic handle, was all cracked up. It had like a million cracks in it. It was, somebody had really yanked on it and cracked it all to hell and back. So also there's a bulb down in here. It was incandescent, and that's now LED as well. One of the more annoying things that I finally repaired, this little drawer right here was in fact a pull-out utensil drawer. Dumbest thing ever. They had this, I'll show you what the drawer looks like here in a minute, but they had it, they tried to attach it way back underneath there. It was a total fiasco. So I said to heck with it. I ripped it all out. I put in soft close hinges and put a little tray in here, and now you just have one of those flip out under sink drawers, and works fantastic. All right, welcome back to the mobile paint booth, but in this case, well, we're going to call it a garbage can because that's where this is going. This is the idiotic utensil drawer from the RV. You know, pretty nasty. I had to pry it off of the cover plate, and the back of it was attached to the rails, and the rails were attached to this convoluted, idiotic scheme. Look, somebody made a corporate decision at Coachmen back in the late 90s and said, boys, we're putting a utensil drawer in this RV come hell or high water. I want a utensil drawer in my motorhome. Make it happen. This is what they come up with. Okay, boss. Leroy, you think that'll work? Yeah, it'll last a couple months. And I bet it did. I bet it lasted a couple months and fell apart. All of these drawers have been painted and now have new liners. This drawer never functioned correctly. Repaired. USB outlet. These things are expensive. Have you priced these? Got this one at Lowe's. Of course, it's extra deep, right? So I had to go ahead and glue a couple of pieces of 1/2-inch plywood together and ease it on out from the, see, this is the OEM box for the original outlet, and this is some plywood that I added so that I could get this gargantuan thing installed. I think I'll take a little brown paint and go right over the top of that, and it'll, you know, I'll try to blend that in a little bit. It'll be a little prettier. But anyway, my whole goal here was to replace this outlet with the one that has USB ports for phone charging. The main entry door never latched properly. Now it does. It no longer shakes. That rattle was that thing right there. But I was going down the road perpetually with my door open, literally. I was only getting to the first detent, but I got in here and grabbed this thing with a wrench. This is the striker, and I just tweaked it a little bit. I can get the first click like this, but if I want the second click, I've got to, you know, man up on it a little bit. Just not a lot, about like the Mercedes. Now it's solid as a rock. I perfectly restored and matched this trim to the rest of the body of the RV. You can hardly tell. I mean, the paint matching here is just beyond reproach. I did the best I could with some paint I got at O'Reilly. So I'd have to go get I'd have to take this thing to a paint shop and have them put a little machine on here and match this paint. And then, you know, I'm going to do that someday, and I'll paint the whole bottom side of the RV. But what I wanted to highlight here was this piece of trim, big chunk broken out of it right there. And it was broken in two places, one there and one there. Removed it from the motorhome, and I rebuilt this with sheet steel and fiberglass. and fixed those cracks with JB Weld, and I put fiberglass on the back of them and stabilized this piece. When I reinstalled it, I used butyl tape underneath and rivets top and bottom. Also, if you don't know anything about how body panels are connected in a marine type situation or an RV, what you have is a fiberglass panel, right? Now, how do you attach a fiberglass panel to a steel superstructure? Well, you're going to fiberglass in a pocket of wood, and that's what this, you can see that this right here is a big long piece of fiberglass covering a long piece of wood here. All right, into that you get a bolt from the back side, and you can see the bolt right there. That is how the panel is held tightly up against the motorhome. So this is now nice and solid. However, in this case, the factory used untreated wood inside of a fiberglass pocket. What did I do? I had some 1/8 inch aluminum bar stock, and I took 3 of them, I JP welded them together, drilled a hole in them, tapped it to a 3/8 by 16 bolt, cut the end out of this fiberglass pocket, and I JB welded that aluminum block up in there with that threaded boss in it, recovered it with fiberglass, put a brand new bolt back through here. So now I'm not screwing into wood, I'm screwing into metal, and it is really nice indeed, because before this thing was all flopping around and stuff. Just a big old mess. And I guess the last big news for the old motorhome here is I took the Class A diesel pusher down to the local RV service center. Nice family-owned joint. And I had the, if you recall, these 2 HWH leveling jacks that I bench tested in the shop with the hydraulic pump. I took them down to a local family-owned RV shop and had them replaced. One there and one over there. The 2 fronts, they worked fine, but the 2 rears were just in a sad state. They would not function at all. And now I have 4 perfectly functioning HWH hydraulic leveling jacks. I was going to try to make a tool so I could remove the spring. And, you know, I know that there's a procedure in the service manual on how to remove these, but let me tell you what, when you're laying on your back without the proper equipment, this is a job that you want to send to a professional. You want to send it to a proper RV shop to have your leveling jacks replaced. All right, the Amazon people came through as usual. We got a splice here from NSI Industries. It does wire this big. Got the instructions here. Basically, strip the wire back according to the diagram there. You place the end of your wires in this splice here. Use the depth of this splice device as a guide for how much wire to peel back from your cable. And these are your taps here, or tighteners, whatever you want to call them. Anyway, slip it in there and tighten it down real good. And then you have this cover here, okay? Now you're going to take this cover, and this has got some kind of gel in it. I'm assuming it's like anti-oxidation gel or something. And I made the mistake of actually touching it with my finger right there. And it is like super sticky, dude. It's like ridiculous. So you can see the ends here are corrugated, so when you crimp this thing down and snap it shut with these plastic snaps here, the cable, this will give way to make room for the big cable. So anyway, there's your splice that I ordered, and that's what I'm going to use. I think this is probably more for household applications. I'm not sure if this has ever been used to splice a ground cable on a motorhome, but that's what I'm going to do with it. So up next, I'm going to go ahead and strip back some insulation from the good end here, and I'll do the same underneath the motorhome, and we'll put our splice in. All right, before we go any further and splice this cable, I want to see what this ground connection looks like. This is where I can't really see it. I can't get up there to see it. It looks pretty good. I'm going to hit that with a wire brush a little bit, then I'm going to put some no-ox on it, and we're going to call that good. Let's see if we did any good with that wire wheel. Probably not a whole lot. Yeah, we cleaned it up a little bit. It looks all right. Yeah, I can live with that. All right, the old starter is back in place. All the original wires are back where they need to be. I got some new corrugated wire cover over the positive cable there. And bought some great big honking zip ties to keep everything from moving around. Here's the ground cable. Okay, it's still kind of long, but I've got it looped around. And I've got it pretty much zip tied everywhere. This is the splice with its plastic cover inside, and I got tape around that. This is the power cable. This is the ground cable, so I've got a piece of radiator hose wrapped around that with zip ties around it. And same here. We've got a zip tie here, and there's zip ties everywhere. And it's not going anywhere, so we are good to go. Oh, and by the way, ignore that. It's some sort of an option, I think, because there's not a plug-in anywhere in sight. And not sure what that's about. Doesn't affect the operation, so just try to ignore it. All right, we got the starter back on, got all the wires hooked up. Let's turn on the chassis power, make sure nothing burns down. I'm going to walk back here real quick and check for smoke. You want to keep mice out of your RV, get yourself a bait box from your local professional pest control people. They keep it populated with the poison. They go in this door and out the other door. That'll eliminate your rodent problem in your RV. Keep it next to your back wheel. I don't see anything smoking. It's kind of nasty because the battery compartment is kind of open to the elements here. I wish there's a better way to seal it up, but I might be able to come up with some rubber weather stripping. All right, let's go try to fire it up, see what happens. Nice looking Pontiac. So we got that gnarly ground cable replaced, and we have a new starter relay and the same starter. That is the current state of affairs. There you go. Easy as pie. Well, kind of. We'll let it run and warm up and pump up that. Whoopsie. I got to change the default setting on that radio. Yeah, let me run this thing for a little while, check for smoke, make sure the air works and all that jazz, and I'll get back with you. All right, folks, that's all we have time for this weekend. Thankfully, I finally got my starting issues with the old motorhome taken care of for good. So you guys cross your fingers and your toes for me, okay? I think we got it knocked out finally. Taking a look at that ground cable, holy cow. Now I know why I had so many intermittent starting issues over the last several weeks. So anyway, these are just some of the things that I've been taking care of while I've been waiting on the short block to come back from the engine shop. I kind of think I know what's going on down there. They probably have so many engines and they only have a specific number of machines. Let's say the honing machine, right? And let's say they have 10 or 15 engines that have to be honed. Well, you just don't go off and just go hone this engine, and then when another one comes along that needs honing, you go to the honing machine. No, I think what's going on is they say, okay, this has got to be honed. Okay, put it over there in the honing stack. Oh, another one to be honed, put that one over there in the honing stack. Let's say they get 10 or 15 over there by the honing machine. And I'm just making this up as a thought experiment based on what I think might make sense. Do I own a machine shop? Absolutely not. But anyway, so I got to kind of thinking about it. I said, you know, that's probably what's going on. They're waiting until they hit that magic number. When they get X number by the machine, they go, okay, stop, we're going to do honing today. And if your engine is in that batch, you get taken care of. And this, I think it kind of proceeds in that fashion. Same way for the cleaning machine and the line honing, all that other kind of stuff. Anyway, that's just my own opinion. If you guys know better about how a machine shop is actually run, which clearly I don't, you guys leave a comment down below. Well, anyway, that's all we have for this weekend, folks. I appreciate you guys stopping by the channel. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. And if you'd like to be notified whenever I release a new video, don't forget to click that little bell down below. You guys have a good one, and remember to enjoy restoring your classic motorhome when your engine isn't back for your Corvette yet.